What's going on, GameLeap? It is the Jizz back at it, and in today's video we're going to talk about the 15 best and worst champions of 11.15. So from last patch, which champions have improved the most and which champions have become really bad. And of course, because 11.15 was a pretty big patch, there are some big swingers in here, so to know the champions you have a better chance of winning on for the next week or so, make sure to stick around for the whole video. You do not want to miss this. Now, if you enjoy these types of videos, guys, where we talk to you about the best and worst champions of each patch and because of the changes, let us know by leaving a like down below. And if you want to perfect any of these champions and become the best at them, make sure to sign up to the GameLeap website. The links are down below for up to 20 Challenger tier videos, fresh and original, that are uploaded every week to get that exclusive access by signing up. Now, coming in at number 15, guys, we have one of the most hated champions in League of Legends, and this is Shaco. And for Shaco this patch, his win rate has gone down by close to 1%. And the reason for this isn't because of any nerfs or buffs that came in. It's because there is a bug fix where if you are on the enemy team now and Shaco is in Fog of War, you actually see the orange Q smoke, because when Shaco does Q, on pretty much every skin of his, there is going to be a little orange cloud of smoke left behind. This makes it a lot easier to detect him when he's ganking you and in team fights as well, so you know when he's about to go in. And this has obviously had an effect this patch, so if you're banning Shaco, well, you might not want to now just because of this little change. Now, this next champion, guys, coming in at number 14, is indeed a champion who got nerfed this patch, and this is Aurelian Sol. So for the 10 of you out there who do actually play Aurelian Sol on a regular basis, and what happened this patch, guys, for Aurelian Sol is that your Q, you know, that massive disc that forms and stuns enemy champions, this is on a second longer cooldown now. So in terms of your playmaking potential and your threat in the laning phase, yes, this is not as strong. This is seen as win rate like Shaco decreased by about 1%, but he's still more than playable and more than fine, so there's not too much to worry about. Now, next on the list, guys, we have a jungler, well, predominantly anyway, but he can also be played in the top lane, and this is Skyler. And for Skyler this patch, nothing really changed, but to be honest, I think Skyler's win rate has just improved just because people are starting to realize how good he is. And for Skyler, even though Anathema has changed, the new item that Riot brought in sounds like a really good item for Skyler because of all the slows and roots you have, really what makes Skyler so good right now is just because of Turbo Chem Tank and that ability haste you get from its mythic passive, which allows you to stick to enemy champions non-stop. And in terms of the jungle at the moment, because you don't have to power farm as much as you used to, you know, really have an impact on a game, for a champion who wants to gank and have an impact around the map, Skyler is having a great time right now. So if there was ever a time to pick up the Scorpion, it is in 11.15. Bruce Light champion who's improved this patch, guys, has been Mordekaiser, and this one is easily justified. This is, of course, because of the buff that came in. So your W being on a 2-second lower cooldown, what does this mean? Well, in terms of the top lane, when you're trading with enemy champions, you know, lots of fights are going to revolve around cooldown, so having this up more often is great. And the fact that you're also going to be storing more of your post-mitigation damage is great for that shield of yours. So in terms of that 1v1 in the top lane now, we all know how good Mordekaiser is generally in a 1v1, especially when you consider his ultimate in the mix as well. Well, now with a lower cooldown in his W and a bigger shield, this makes him even more scary, and his win rate as a result has gone up almost 1%. Now, next up on the list, guys, we have a mid lane mage who got buffed this patch, and this was Syndra, and her mana cost in her Q has been reduced. And what they've done here is just revert the 10-13 nerf, and this is great because for your Q, when you are spamming this in the early game, it does cost a bit of mana, and you can go if you're spamming this on repeat. But here's the thing, guys, until rank 5, so until level 9, the mana cost of ranks 1 to 4 is lower, especially at level 1 when you can just spam your Q on repeat. And for a champion like Syndra, who recently, you know, with Seeker's Arm Guard being nerfed, with Phase Rush being nerfed, it's definitely a warranted buff, and this has seen her win rate go up 1%, but she still isn't, you know, anything too overpowering just yet. She's in a good spot. It's not making her terrifying to play against. This just gives you more power in the early laning phase and laning phase generally. Now, next up on the list, guys, we have another champion who got buffed this patch, and this was Shyvana. And what happened was your Q's cooldown decreased in the early game, and your damage ratios have increased as well in your Q. So, okay, so the Q cooldown helps in terms of your jungle clear, but here's the thing, guys. The damage ratios have increased for your AP. The AD ratios are staying the same. So if you do want to play AD Shyvana, and I know there are lots of Shyvana players out there who do prefer playing like Press the Attack Bruiser Shyvana, this honestly, I don't really know how much this was wanted, these changes, because it's like Riot are forcing you to play AP Shyvana and just leaving attack damage Shyvana in the dark. So if you're playing AP Shyvana in the jungle, of course, with Night Harvester, Nash's Tooth, cooldown boots, you're going to have more success, which has been shown by her increase in win rate by 1%. But if you are playing AD Shyvana, you're still in a world of pain, to be honest. Now, up next, guys, I said Shaco was one of the most hated champs in the game. I'm not sure if this champion is hated, but lots of players hate playing against her, and this is Gwen. At this patch, Riot decided to nerf Gwen, and this has seen her win rate decrease by 1%. So what's happened is that the bonus attack speed you get from your E, this is now down in the early game. In fact, at rank 1, it's cut in half. So having less attack speed, what does this mean? Well, in terms of Conqueror stacking, you're not going to be stacking as quickly and as often. And in those early game trades as well, you're not going to be having as much DPS onto the enemy champion. So in terms of your trading potential in the laning phase, this is down, and as a result, this has seen Gwen a little worse off in 11.15 so far. Now let's head to the bot lane, guys, and talk about one of the supports that got buffed this patch, and this is Blitzcrank. And for Blitzcrank, your base armor went up, and in the bot lane where you're going to be playing against attack damage champions for the most part, this just makes you tankier and harder to kill. And also your rocket grabs damage, so your Q, this has gone up in terms of its base damage and also its AP ratio. So for those of you Chad Blitzcranks out there who are going Defcat Blitzcrank, not only respect, but you're also going to be one-shotting people more often. And this just gives Blitz a lot more early game power, guys, because in terms of the bot lane, you have Nautilus, you have Thresh, who are really the two big hookers way in the bot lane at the moment. So this brings Blitzcrank back on the map, and in lower elos, to be honest, he's probably going to be a bit too oppressive, but these buffs definitely seem warranted, and these have seen his win rate increase as a result. Now up next, guys, we have Kled. And for Kled this patch, nothing actually really happened. Okay, he got a voice line restored. Maybe this was it, to be honest. But I think for Kled mains in general, the top lane is just a lot easier to play now because of Stride Break and how bad it now is. And because of the Hull Breaker buff this patch as well, and for Kled, you know, when you are 1v1ing enemy champions, you are very strong indeed. So having more magic resistant armor in that split push, and this has seen his win rate increase by 1%. And honestly, the fact that lots of people still don't know how to play against Kled and counter him, just pick Fiora by the way, means that him and Skyler are always going to have success. Now up next, guys, we have Irelia. And if you haven't played against Irelia in 11-15, so this patch, she is still as busted as ever, despite the nerfs that came into her W. So the AD ratio is down in it, but this only really affects your mid to late game. And the damage reduction, so from physical and magical damage, you're taking more damage, but these are so insignificant and they don't really target where Irelia is so strong. The fact that your W does so much damage to minions in the early game allows you to last hit them with your Q and stack your passive. You only need 4 passive stacks now as well, and with your ultimate, each time you rank this up, I've said this so many times in recent videos, you are getting cooldown reduction on your Q. So the new Irelia is just way more forgiving, and there's a lot of compensation there if you do stuff up. So if you're not an Irelia expert, you're going to have way more success, and this has seen her win rate, by the way, recently increased by like 5-6%, which is completely nuts. But this patch, she is a little worse off, don't get me wrong, because of the W nerf, but she's still so good. So there's no reason to stop playing her. Now coming in next, guys, we have Lillia, and this jungler has been having more success this patch, and the reason Lillia, guys, has increased in win rate isn't because there was some sort of nerf or buff or bug fix. This is because players across the world are starting to realize how good Lillia is in the top lane, and yes, you heard me correctly, in the top lane now. In high relo and master and above, she has a 51% win rate in the top lane, whereas in the jungle, just a 45%. So the fact that your base armor is now 22 instead of 20 against AD champions in the top lane, who you're going to see most of the time, this makes you harder to play against. Also, the fact your abilities are now going to be dealing 6% of the target's maximum HP instead of 5%. In the top lane, you're going to be playing against champions with HP, so this tick damage, especially with Leandre's Anguish, is going to be amplified. And because of all the negative changes for jungle Lillia, so in terms of your ultimate, the sleep is lasting for less, and your swirl seed is on a much higher cooldown, so in terms of potential to make plays around the map with your swirl seed and ultimate, these are just less often. So in the top lane with Conqueror, Lillia has been finding so much success, and I would highly recommend playing her in the top lane if you are playing her still in the jungle, because you're going to win way more games. Now the next champion we have to talk about, guys, is another AP champion who can be played in the top lane and mid lane, and this is Kenan. And for Kenan, what's happened this patch? Well, your Q got buffed, so your base damage is now higher, and the AP ratio at scaling off is higher as well. So in the early game, your Q is going to be dealing more damage, nice for last hitting, and also to poke the enemy champion more importantly. And as you get AP throughout a game, so from Rocket Belts, Donyas, Void Staff, Rabadon's Death Cap, whatever it is, you're going to be dealing more damage with that Shuriken, and this has seen Kenan's win rate increase by over 1% so far this patch. Now coming up next, guys, we have another mage in the mid lane, and this is Zoe. And Zoe didn't get buffed or nerfed this patch, guys, but I think recently, because Prowler's Claw has been nerfed and, you know, assassins aren't really that scary. I mean, they still are scary if you do stuff up, but in terms of mid lane priority and the fact you're now getting Luden's Tempest earlier because it's 200 gold cheaper, this just accelerates Zoe's powerful early and mid game. And if you couple this with Horizon Focus and then Sorcerer Shoes, your damage is off the charts, especially if you land your E. It's like a guaranteed kill, and this has seen Zoe's win rate increase by over 1.5% this patch. So if you want a champion in the mid lane who can get priority for your jungler, Zoe is the champion to do it on. Now up next, guys, we have Nidalee, whose win rate has increased by almost 2% this patch, and this is because all of the buffs that came in. Well, I say all of the buffs, all that's really changed is that you've got more health at level 1, and your health per level is also up as well. So you're going to be tankier, you're going to have more green bars in there, so as you come out of the jungle, even if you're missing HP, you're going to have more of it. So what this really means is you're not going to die as much, and you're going to be harder to take down. It's almost like you can take more risks. But I still think Nidalee, guys, isn't really the most optimal champion to play just because of the new jungle camps being on 2-minute 15-second timers. It's like power farming isn't as important as it used to be, and you don't really need that clear speed as much as you used to, which is why Nidalee has fallen off. And not to mention the fact that with Night Harvester, you know, just not being as good as Luden's Tempest in the jungle, this means that she's just at a disadvantage compared to a champion like Lillia, for example. So in terms of AP jungler still isn't the best, but certainly you can make it work if you know how to play her well. Now, the number one champion, guys, who have benefited the most from 11.15 is, of course, Rel. And what happened to Rel this patch, guys, is that Riot have reverted the 11.5 nerf that increased your W's cooldown, so both the crash down and the mount up, to 13 seconds from 11. This is now back at 11 seconds, and what does this mean? Well, in terms of playmaking potential, because you have your W off cooldown more often, you can go in and engage with a bit more frequency, create more kills for your teammates, and this has seen Rel's win rate increase by 2% this patch, which is quite a significant move up the rank. So if you want an engaged support to play this patch, guys, Rel, honestly, very, very good shout indeed. So those are the 15 best and worst champions, guys, of this patch based on the changes. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, let us know by leaving a like down below. Remember to hit that sub button before you head out, and to check out the GameLeap website as well. Lots of requests there, sorry about that. But until tomorrow's video, this has been the Jizz. I'll see you then. Bye.